if you're trying to learn it in the thick of it, it's going to be too late. You've got to build relationships. You've got to learn it. You got to know how to evaluate deals. So, get busy is all I can tell you, because it's coming.
You're listening to Alternative Investor Mastermind, where we do a deep dive on alternative investment opportunities and the lifestyle it can create. Join Jack Krupe as he presents actionable tips and tricks in doing passive real estate away from mainstream strategies. Go beyond the usual fix and flips and try less explored yet rewarding investing ventures. From multifamily properties, mobile homes to cryptocurrencies. Do not miss this opportunity to escape traditional assets and finally create wealth without Wall Street. Now your host, Jack.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of the Alternative Investor Mastermind. Really excited today. I had the pleasure of doing his show a couple weeks ago, and he is gracious enough to come on our show today. So a man that doesn't really need much of an introduction, Rod Khleif is here today. Rod, thank you so much for being here.
Oh, thanks, brother. I'm really looking forward to this, man. It's great to see you again. I really enjoyed our conversation when I had you on my show, and it's fun to reciprocate and come back and have some fun with you.
Absolutely. So, a lot of people may know who you are already, but for those who don't, you've got an amazing story, and I would love for you to tell your story to our audience.
Sure. So those of you that have heard it, forgive me, I'll try to be brief, but, I'm going to go way back because it'll lend framework to what we're going to talk about today, some of the things we're going to talk about. So I'm a Dutch immigrant, born in the Netherlands, think wooden shoes and windmills, and immigrated when I was 6 years old with my brother Albert, my mother's Vansha. We ended up in Denver, Colorado, and I will tell you we didn't have much. Initially, I remember we ate expired food. We shopped at this expired food store. Believe it or not, they had that. We drank powdered milk with our cereal in the morning. Trust me, sounds better than it is. And and I wore clothes from the Goodwill and the Salvation Army, hand-me-downs, all the way through junior high school until finally I got disgusted and lied about my age when I was 14 at Burger King and got a job because I was tall, flipping burgers. And you've probably got listeners that had it harder than I did and maybe even have it harder now. But I will tell you, I knew I wanted more. And luckily, my mom had an incredible work ethic. So she babysat kids. So we'd have enough money to eat. We always had a house full of kids. And she became a bit of an entrepreneur. She invested successfully in the stock market. And she also invested in real estate. Well, her first real estate acquisition was a house directly across the street from us that she bought when I was about 14 for about $30,000. And then when I was 17, she told me she'd made $20,000 in her sleep, that had gone up in value $20,000. I'm like, what? You made $20,000? You didn't do anything? Screw college, I'm getting into real estate. So I immediately got my real estate broker's license, which you could do back then with education. I could have my own office. Now they got smart. You need some experience to be a broker. And I was smart enough to go work for another broker, but I actually was a broker. But my first year in real estate, I was still living at home. I made about $8,000. Okay, this is 1978. Okay, my second year, I maybe made $10,000, $12,000, something like that. But my third year, I made over $100,000. Which back in 1980 was some decent change. And so what happened between year 2 and year 3 that caused me to 10x my income? Well, what happened was I met a guy, the broker I was talking about, I went to work for. I was actually dating his daughter, and he taught me about the importance of mindset and psychology, and how really 80 to 90% of your success in anything is your mindset and psychology. Only 10 to 20% is the stuff we drone on about on our podcast, the real estate stuff, But it's really the do, and it's the keep doing. It's the, pushing through fear and limiting beliefs, and, maybe you're comfortable, and, and it's pushing through that. The comfort zone's a nice warm place, and we all know nothing freaking grows there, right? And so, I fast forward to today. I've owned over 2,000 houses that I've rented long term. I own thousands of apartment units now. In 2006, my net worth went up $17 million while I slept. And you might say, wow, that's $8,300 an hour if you want to check. Of course I did. And I got a head so big I could barely fit it through a freaking door. And when that happens, God of the universe, I thought it was real estate God, but when that happens, God of the universe will give you a nice little beat down. Well, that was 2008. In 2008 and 9, I lost $50 million conservatively. And so what I'm known for talking about, if you don't know who I am, is really mindset and psychology it took to have $50 million to lose in the first place, and probably more important is the mindset it took to recover from that. I mean, there were people that killed themselves for losing less in 2008 and 9, and of course in the Great Depression. And so happy to drill down on that some with you if you like, Jack.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know we've talked a lot about kind of the single family versus multifamily, but do a little deeper dive into sort of what did you own? Was it a lot of single family before 2008?
I'll tell you why it crashed. Yeah, I'll tell you why I crashed. So I had 800 houses. They were 2 hours north of me, 2 hours south of me, and everywhere in between, okay, along the Gulf Coast of Florida. And so houses do not cash flow well, period. And by the way, I was at a 30% loan to value. I only owed 30 cents on the dollar, true story. But I also had several apartment complexes, but it was the houses that pulled me down. And here's why. First of all, some of these houses were in wind and flood zones, so the insurance was higher, okay, impacts cash flow. There's no state income tax here, so taxes here proportionally are higher than when I had houses in Denver and Tennessee or Memphis. And so that impacts cash flow, the taxes. But the thing that really killed me is these were primarily C-class houses, okay? There's A, B, C, and D class. A's brand new, D's the hood. Stay out of the hood. Ask me how I know. Anyway, but these were C. Okay, so they're older. They have a tougher demographic. There's a lot more maintenance on those, okay? See, if I send somebody to one of my apartment complexes, we could stockpile parts. Everything's the same. Plumbing parts, electrical parts, HVAC parts, appliance parts, windows, locks, all that. And so they're in and out in an hour if there's something wrong there. But if I had to send someone to a house that's an hour, hour and a half away, they have to go see what's wrong. Every house is different. Then they have to go find a Home Depot or a Lowe's because you can't stock everything for houses. And so literally what took an hour at one of my apartment complexes took all day at one of my 800 houses. And so it never really cash flowed well. But then what really killed me was I didn't pay attention to tenant demographics, Jack. If they had a good job and they had income and they had decent credit, I let them rent. They paid a nice deposit, I let them rent. Well, what I discovered after the fact was I had a ton of contractors, plumbers, electricians, drywallers, painters, roofers. All that fell off a freaking cliff in 2008-9. They didn't have work. And so, and you want to know something crazy? I tried to sell the portfolio at what I owed on it, couldn't sell it. By the time the crash was pretty much in the depth of it and the over, my portfolio actually went upside down. That's how much it dropped here in Florida, okay, 70%. But that's it. But here's the thing. What was interesting is my multifamily did just fine. If in my infinite wisdom I hadn't cross-collateralized those apartment complexes with package of houses with local banks, I own them by myself, with my brother. If I hadn't done that, I'd still own those apartment complexes. Yeah, they pulled back maybe 10, 11%, but they would have easily survived. And so, that's why I started my podcast about 7.5 years ago, just to tell people, if you're going to buy and hold real estate, for God's sakes, do multifamily, don't do single family, okay? Ask me how I know. It's really funny. At my boot camps, I say, don't do that. Ask me how I know. And I say it so often that one of my students got me a shirt that said hashtag ask me how I know. And now we print them and give them away as a joke. But so that's what happened. And, and that's, like I said, that's why I started the podcast. And I'm blessed to say we just broke 17 million downloads. And my focus is multifamily. It's called Lifetime Cash Flow, which is, Jack was on there. So come listen to the episode with Jack. It was awesome. But so that's why it happened. Yeah.
Yeah, I really appreciate you sharing that being so vulnerable. I think one of the points, and we have a lot of passive investors who are looking to get started in real estate, and the fact that you had scale, you had 800, and all of those operational issues were happening at that level. I find a lot of newer investors, if you try to buy 3 or 5 rentals, those are compounded. You don't even have a maintenance guy. You're calling Roto-Rooter,
right,
and paying a few $100s every time the tenant calls for
and,
something.
And you can't find good management companies to handle them. They just don't exist. Where these assets that I own now that are 100+ units, you get world-class management companies that know what they're doing. So yeah, but anyway, back to mindset, because I think it'll add value even to your passive investor listeners, honestly. And so, and I'll tell you, I think we're headed for some pain in this country. I know we are, especially in the commercial real estate space with these new operators these last few years. They got bridge debt. They got adjustable rate debt. And I think there's going to be some pain. But more importantly, I look at it through rose-colored glasses. It's going to be incredible opportunity. I'm putting together an opportunity fund right now. It goes live next week. And we're going to raise money to take advantage of some of these distressed assets, because in what's coming, surety of close is going to be more important than the price. And so we want to make sure we are positioned to be able to close quickly and give these distressed sellers comfort that we actually can close. Like we have an asset right now that we're in best and final in Florida here, and they have 3 months before their debt resets. And they're freaking out. I know they are. And so So anyway, back to mindset. And I will tell you, if you're listening to Jack or watching this on YouTube or wherever, you're a leader. And I'm going to tell you right now, the world needs leaders more than ever. So I salute you for being here and desiring, to make your life better and become better. But, I will tell you, if you come to one of my boot camps, I've got one coming up in September, the only live one I do every year. And I'll tell you, in fact, I'll just tell you right now, if you use the code JACK, you can come for $197. And I'll tell you where you can go. In fact, I've got some incredible resources at rodslinks.com if you're interested in this business in general. But rodslinks.com. But if you use the code JACK there at the boot camp site, you come for $197. It's not a sales pitch, so it's kind of a no-brainer. But back to mindset. And the reason I brought that up is at my boot camp, the first thing we do is goal setting on steroids. Okay, that's the first hour. Because how the hell do you get anything if you don't know what it is? You got to know what you want and why you want it. And the other reason I want to bring up Rod's Links is every New Year's Day, I do a goal-setting workshop, and there's one there at the bottom. It's on the bottom of Rod's Links. It's my link tree. There's a guide you can download. I'm not going to try to sell you anything. See, here's the thing, Jack. People spend more time planning a freaking birthday party than they do designing their lives. That's designing your life, is doing your goals. Have your spouse do it. If your kids are over 10 years old, have them do it. That's designing your life. And it starts with that because you've got to create what Napoleon Hill in his book Think and Grow Rich calls a burning desire, a hunger. You got to want it. That's how you push through those fears and those limiting beliefs and get uncomfortable to take action, even passively in real estate, because it's scary, to give your money to somebody. And by the way, on that note, if you're thinking of investing passively in multifamily, get your butt to my boot camp, because why would you give your hard-earned money to someone if you don't have a basic understanding of the business? We get lots of people that come that just want to learn enough about the business so they don't make a big mistake with their money. Okay, so anyway, so it starts with goal setting to create that burning desire and to push you through. And then, the next piece is you got to make a decision. And the Latin root for the word decision means to cut off. I'm not talking about dipping your toe in the water. I'm not talking about 1 foot in, 1 foot out. It is freaking done when you make a decision, okay? So an analogy would be if you're going to attack the island, you're going to burn your ships because you're going to be taking their ships home. That's a decision. And when you make that decision, you're committed. And when you're committed, you're like a train on a track, okay? If you're just interested in dipping your toe in the water, you're going to get knocked off track. See, motivation will get you started, but it's that decision which results in a commitment that'll bring you home, okay? So it's critical that you make that decision. The next piece is you got to take your first step. And, if you haven't invested passively yet, then, do your homework. By the way, at Rod's Links, there's in the free book section, there's also a book, and there's some world-class books in there, best-in-class books. There was one on asset management, there's one on hiring a third-party property manager, but there's also a book there, the questions you should ask a general partner before you invest in a multifamily deal. So again, another reason to go to Rod's Links and take, utilize those free resources. But again, after you make that decision, you've got to take that first step, and that could be the scariest step of your life, and I know you've got a lot of analytical listeners and followers here, Jack, because that lends itself to this environment, and I love you. You know who you are, and you also know that typically you have to check off every single box before you make a move, right? Come on, that's the truth, and I'm here to tell you, you got to push past that, because you'll never take action if you do that, okay? Dr. Martin Luther King said, take that first step in faith, the next step will be revealed. You're never going to see the whole path, okay? But you got to push through in spite of that, have some faith, and take action. And I'm going to tell you, that first step could be the biggest step of your life. So let me give you an analogy. If you're analytical, and I will tell you, some of the most successful students that I have in my program are the analytical ones, but they're the hardest to get to make a move, to take action, okay? So let me give you an analogy, and that is you can drive all the way across the United States at night with your headlight only seeing 60 feet in front of you. You'll make it. Now, you may have some setbacks, you may have some obstacles, other people have done it before you. It's like that with anything that you approach. Passive investing in real estate, active investing, if you want to be an operator, all that. But you got to take that first step. Here's the thing. Don't fear failure. If you're going to fear anything, fear regret, okay? There was this nurse in Australia named Bronnie Ware. She was a hospice nurse, and she took care of patients when they were about to die. And Jack, she asked him a question. And the question was, do you have any regrets? And she wrote a book about it, something like The 5 Regrets of Dying. You know what the number one regret was? Not living the life I could have lived, living someone else's life, not doing what I know I'm capable of. I can't tell you, how painful that would be, just thinking about that. And so, again, back to, failure. We fail our way to success. Remember, this life is not a dress rehearsal. This is it, okay? So, here's what I'll tell you. If you're going to fear anything, fear being in the same place you are right now 2 years from now, unless you freaking love where you are right now, right? So that's what I would fear. And that leads me to the next topic, fear, okay? Fear and limiting beliefs. So what is fear? F everything and run. I like to think it's false evidence appearing real is another one, but I like to think it's face everything and rise. See, everybody feels fear. Us achievers, we call it stress, but everybody feels fear. But see, the people that never succeed and are poor let it paralyze them. The successful people push through in spite of the fear. Okay, so you've got to push through, and that's why the burning desire through the goal setting is so freaking important. You've got to have those goals because, like I said, when things start getting ugly in the real estate environment, they're starting to now with the interest rates and politics. Don't get me started on a freaking crap that's on the news right now. You don't even know what to believe anymore. It's like ridiculous. And so, if fear will pop up. I remember in 2008 and 9, the news was saying, "Oh, real estate's going to be terrible for 10 years." Well, let me enlighten you. Multifamily rents exceeded pre-crash levels in less than 3 years. Okay, that's how fast multifamily bounced back, and that was a big crash. Okay, but so that's fear. Now let's talk about limiting beliefs, and I've got a great visual for this. Hang on one second. So, when I immigrated to this country, I got thrown into school. I was 6. I didn't speak English, and I found out what bullies were for the first time. I hadn't learned how to fight back yet. And then my mom, so I got my butt kicked occasionally. And then my mom, proud Dutch woman that she is, sent me to school in these wooden shoes and these leather shorts the Germans wear for Oktoberfest. So I got my ass kicked again. These are the actual ones, too. We found them in the house when we put her in assisted living. But anyway, so, I got my butt kicked again. And then we had bullies at the end of my street that would chase me home, and she'd chase them off with a fly swatter, next day butt kicking. And I came up with this belief system that I wasn't good enough. I used to ask myself, how can I show them I'm good enough? And which, of course, presupposed I wasn't. Now, see, the reason I bring this up is this is valuable for a lot of people because a lot of people have these limiting belief systems. I'm not good enough. I'm not smart enough. I'm not analytical enough. That was another one of mine. I don't have enough time. I don't have enough money. And here's the thing to remember. There's a reason the acronym for belief systems is BS. Because 99% of them are BS. We believe they're real, but they're not. So if you have one of these BS belief systems, what I would encourage you to do is drag it out into the daylight. Look at it through your adult rational mind. Recognize that it's BS. If you do that consciously enough times, it will go away. I promise you, because I used to be afraid to raise my hand in a class of 15 kids, and now I speak in front of thousands and thousands of people a year. So, I was able to do it. You can too. So that's the next piece. The next one is focus. Okay. Here's the thing. Right now, more than ever, you have to direct your focus, especially as a leader, like I just said, because where your focus goes, your energy flows. The most successful people on the planet have the highest degree of focus. But here's the thing. Whatever you focus on gets larger, both positive or negative. Okay, like I was just talking about the news. Keep that crap out. Touch on the headlines and move on. Okay, don't get sucked into it. Don't get me started on the freaking politics. But here's the thing. I get people that call me and say, how do I get out of student loan debt? And I tell them, wrong freaking question. How do you make so much money that debt's irrelevant? That's the right question, okay? They asked Mother Teresa if she was anti-war. She said, no, I'm pro-peace. You get what I'm trying to say here. So it's really critical that you pay attention to what you focus on. And I remember I used to have all these different businesses, and I remember that and my focus was diluted. And I'll tell you another thing. I don't know about you, but I'll sometimes be watching Netflix and I'll be sitting here scrolling through social media. You want to talk about killing your focus. Your brain is making these micro decisions, split-second decisions, kills your focus. I get excited about my podcast having 17 million downloads, and I listen to 2 podcasts. I listen to Joe Rogan and I listen to Tim Ferriss. I try to get both sides of the aisle. I'm definitely on one side, I will tell you, but I try to stay as balanced as I can. And Tim Ferriss's show, He interviews the best of the best in the world, and he deconstructs their success. The best athletes, Michael Phelps, NFL, NBA players, actors like Hugh Jackman, Ed Norton, Arnold, Jamie Foxx, billionaires like Ray Dalio, CEOs of the biggest companies in the world like Zuckerberg. And he deconstructs their success, and I started to hear a pattern, Jack. They almost all meditate. What does meditation enhance? Focus, right? And so, that's what we call a clue. But the next piece is, this might be more for an operator than a passive investor, but because multifamily is a team sport, you want to play to your strengths. You want to do that anyway, frankly, in life, okay? Because if you're playing to your strengths, you love what you do, you're good at it, and you never work another day in your life, right? But your strengths are your greatest asset. See, in multifamily, there are multiple hats that can be worn. You could be the person that finds the deals, the one that underwrites the deals. If you're analytical, you could be, if you're process driven, you could be the one that does the asset management. A lot of different hats, but you want to play to your strengths and hire, align, or partner for your weaknesses. Because when you love what you do, success is inevitable. Okay, I will tell you, I've interviewed some of the best operators on the planet on my show, and some of the best combinations I see are an analytical person with an outgoing person. Because this business is primarily empirical. It's primarily numbers. You get the numbers right, you're in good, and you ask all the right questions, you're in good shape, but you still have to go out there and build relationships and, with brokers and potential partners and investors and so on and so forth. So again, play to your strengths. And when you do play to your strengths, you're going to be passionate, okay? Because you're loving what you're doing. And passion is required to influence people, okay? And so, when you have that passion, you can influence people to work with you and invest with you and, and want to be around you. And so, and success requires that ability to influence. So if you have that passion, you're going to have that ability to influence. And that passion really is the fuel, So figure out what juices you and inspires you, and go do that. Passion breeds creativity and innovation and minimizes or even eliminates fear. Now, I can come up for air. I've got a couple more topics I'd love to keep going on, but if you tell me if you want me to stop.
No, that's great. That's great. I think maybe just a little deeper dive into sort of the path of a passive investor. Take somebody who's, high earner, maybe they're a business owner, maybe they're a doctor, don't own any real estate, they've got 99% of their money in stocks and bonds, and they're looking to get in. Maybe just talk through the path. That partnership is
it's
great.
A fantastic path. Yeah, it's a fantastic path because, again, you're investing in, I think, the most stable, secure asset class there is, as long as you pick the right operator. Like I said, there's some operators that got this adjustable rate debt, and they're hurting right now. But, like the last two deals we did were 10-year debt, fixed rate, very conservative loan to value. Like both were 60% loan to value. And so, you've got to do your homework. I'd highly encourage you to come to my boot camp or keep your education going if you can't. But the path is basically you recognize that you can get involved in these large assets. You can get what's called a preferred return. Typically it's 7 or 8%. And so that comes off the top before the operator gets a dime. And then there's a split. Very often it's in favor of the investors that put the money in. It can be 70-30, 80-20 in favor of you putting the money in. Now I'll tell you, the last two deals we did, they were 50-50 because they were so incredible that we didn't have to raise the percentages to make the returns work. But the most common is going to be 70-30, 80-20, somewhere like that. If you see a 90-10 run, because that means it's a skinny deal, even 80-20 is a little questionable. 70-30 would be the optimal. But anyway, so recognize you're going to get a preferred return off the top, then you're going to get a split on the back end. You get tax benefits, which are extraordinary, okay? You can offset the income with the, most operators now do a cost segregation study, so they accelerate the depreciation. There's still 80% bonus depreciation. So again, there's a reason 90% of the world's millionaires either did it in real estate or own real estate, okay? That's another clue, okay? And so, just get out there and start hanging around with people that are doing this. That's why my boot camp's so incredible, because there's dozens of operators there. In fact, let me just mention peer group for a second. Who you hang out with is who you become, right? You're the sum total of the people. You show me your 3 best friends, I'll show you who you are, your health, your happiness, your relationships, your finances, everything. That's just how it works. I'll tell you a story. When I was losing everything in 2008 and 9, I was in Tony Robbins' Platinum Partnership, okay, which is a high-level mastermind, like $130,000 all in back then. And I was around people that were killing it in the crash. They were thriving. And they're like, get up, you puss, 50 million, schmillion, go make it happen. Now, is that who you want to be around when the stuff hits the fan? Yes, you better believe it. So get around people even if you're just investing passively, get around people that want more out of life, that aren't afraid of success, that aren't going to be afraid. They're not going to impose their limiting beliefs or their fears on you. Get around people that want more. And that's why my coaching program, I have a warrior coaching program. They're my coaching students. And I'm going to brag for a minute. I've only been teaching 5 years, and they now own somewhere between 170 and 180,000 units that we know of. Super proud of that. And most of them are done between warriors because they lift each other up, they validate each other, they encourage each other. Remember, a rising tide lifts all ships. Now, I will tell you, if you got people around you that are afraid of losing you, afraid of seeing you successful because they'll feel less than, a fear of rejection, or they have their own limiting beliefs and stuff, be careful. And sometimes it's family. And I'm going to tell you, love your family, but proactively choose your peers. Unfortunately, most people choose peers that they work with or they went to school with. And again, those people may hold you back. So be very, very careful who you allow to influence you. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's really great stuff. And what are the dates of the boot camp? Just so.
I'll tell you more about the boot camp. So it's 3 days. It's September 15th through the 17th. It's not a big sales pitch. It's like most events, they have multiple speakers come in, try to sell you stuff, and you never get everything soup to nuts. My event is soup to nuts. Picking a market, finding the deals, underwriting the deals, evaluating the deals, raising all the money you need for the deals, syndicating them, joint venture, property management. And because I'm known for mindset, you know I'm going to spend time on mindset. I promise you come, you will laugh, you will cry. This is not your typical real estate seminar, and you will leave so freaking juiced you won't know what to do with yourself, okay? And if you come, and you don't love it, I don't mean like it, I mean freaking love it, afterwards I'll give you your money back. It's never happened, but there's a first time for anything. And I've had thousands of people attend. And if you go to rodslinks.com, it's September 15th through the 17th in Orlando, rodslinks.com. There's my boot camp site. There's also, again, a ton of free resources. There's my podcast link. There's free books, and there's my #1 best-selling book. You can pay $6 or $7 and get the physical copy of that. But go there and use the code Jack to get that $197 price. And I could sell it for $3,000. It'd still be a screaming deal. And by the way, you'll also get, as part of that, you get my document library, which I've spent tens of thousands of dollars on those documents. And you'll get my deal evaluator software, which is fantastic. It is really good to evaluate deals with instructional videos and everything else. So again, it's kind of a no-brainer. Here's the thing. I'm going to tell you, those of you listening, if you're going to invest passively, just be selective. Learn learn enough so you can take a look at a pro forma and see if they're being ridiculous, if they've got, 10% rent increases over the next 5 years, stupid crap like that. So you can, have some basic understanding of what you're looking at. And that's why, again, I highly recommend you come. But if not, let's continue the education process. And again, don't fear failure, like I said. Don't worry about that. Fear regret. I will tell you, I got to meet the billionaire owner of Spanx, the women's undergarments. Sarah Blakely. They hold everything together. Women know who it is. Men may not. But she started with $5,000, and now she's a billionaire. And I met her at her mastermind, and she told me that her dad used to ask her and her brother, "What have you failed at this week?" And I thought, what a great freaking question to ask your kids so they don't fear failure. So again, get out there, make it happen. Don't be afraid of this. Learn as much as you can about it, whether you're going to do it passively or actively, and success is inevitable, okay? Don't rush into it. Be careful, but there's going to be exponential money made. And I will tell you, if you're not sure this is the vehicle, there's going to be, everything's going on sale, in my opinion. Businesses, 80 million baby boomers are set to retire, and they have businesses that you can buy. I think there's going to be great deals there. Different asset classes of real estate. I love self-storage. I would stay the heck away from office right now. Even retail, frankly, I'd probably stay away from. But, mobile home parks are great. Apartments are great. Even single family on a small scale, but they're a pain. It's a lot of work. I wouldn't recommend it. Again, I've owned 2,000 houses, so I'm credible in that statement. But pick your vehicle and learn it as fast as you can, okay? Decide how you're going to take advantage of this, because if you're trying to learn it in the thick of it, it's going to be too late. You've got to build relationships. You've got to learn it. You've got to know how to evaluate deals. So, get busy is all I can tell you, because it's coming.
Absolutely. You covered a lot of limiting beliefs. One of the things that I've heard from a lot of investors that I know is a limiting belief on their part is, they get in their head that, the stock market, the efficient market, that nobody beats the market. And I consider
that's been proven wrong.
Yeah,
so many
absolutely.
times. I'm
Wanted
sorry to
hear your
interrupt.
take on that.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Well,
I
no,
was
it's
just gonna
been
turn it over to
proven
you.
wrong so many times. And I'm going to tell you, there is a stock market crash coming. I promised you. Okay. There's 1.6 trillion in commercial debt coming due by the end of next year. And here's the problem, Jack, and you know this. I mean, I'm not educating you on this. Those people either have to sell or they have to refinance this debt that's coming due. Sales are down 75%. That's just first quarter. I think it's worse than that second quarter. But first quarter, 75% sales year-over-year decline. Refinancing is very, very difficult right now. The debt markets are really screwy. And we know what's happened with the rates. And there's something in our world called debt service coverage. And so, in our world, they don't look at your ability to borrow the money or your debt to income ratio. They're looking at the property's ability to service the debt. And if the interest rates have gone up, that's challenging. In many cases, these operators have to put a ton of money in to be able to even have somebody sniff if a loan is possible. And then you're going to have what's called a rate cap. Okay, to now let you know what happened in that market. Back in 2020, if you wanted a rate cap for a $100 million loan for 3 years where the rate wasn't going to go up more than 3%, it cost $23,000. That same rate cap today, forget 3 years, you couldn't get it. 1 year is $2.3 million. And this was 6 months ago. It's probably higher than that now. So the point is, it's going to be very, very difficult for these operators to sell or refinance, which is why we're putting a debt fund together. If you're interested in looking into that, text the word partner to 72345. And by the way, if you're driving and listening to this and you want the Rod's links, text links to 72345 for that boot camp. And remember the code Jack for the 197. Again, that's links to 72345. But, I think incredible opportunities coming, brother. I really do. And I'm getting ready for it. And, again, this is not a time to be fearful, passively or actively. It's a time to get excited because they're going to be exponential deals. And I know it. We're already seeing them. And so it's coming.
Yeah, we're looking at a deal right now where Blackstone is selling, and it's because they have redemptions. So one of the, some people sometimes worry about lack of liquidity, but sometimes liquidity kills too. The reason they're selling this asset that they really don't want to sell is because they have people redeeming from one of their open-ended funds, and so because they have redemptions, they need to sell a quality asset built in 2003 in the north side of Dallas.
Wow.
That's a prime area, and it's being sold for 20% cheaper than it was bought for in 2021. So the deals are happening, and now is the time to be taking action, in my opinion. And by the way, for anyone who's going to the boot camp, I am registered. Got the hotel.
Oh, I forgot you're going. Awesome, brother.
Well. So,
awesome. I forgot you told me that.
Yeah, absolutely. Awesome. And I'm bringing a few people as well. So we'll more than likely have an informal dinner or networking event, one or both evenings as well. So if you're coming to the event, please reach out to me. I want to network with as many people as possible as well. Awesome. Yeah, this mindset stuff is really great. Rod, you said you have a couple other points.
Let's just two more, and we'll wrap it. So the next one to remember in all of this, okay, in all of what's coming, is gratitude. And I know you're going to be, oh, Christ, he's in foo-foo land right now, but just stay with me here, okay? You cannot be fearful and grateful at the same time, okay? You can't be angry and grateful at the same time. You can't be stressed and grateful at the same time. Gratitude is the most important foundational emotion for you to embrace and utilize, especially in what's coming. It makes us stronger when we face adversity. Actually strengthens our immune system, lowers our blood pressure, makes our heart stronger, even brings us closer to our spirituality. But here's the big thing. Gratitude is what attracts everything you want into your life, okay? I do a little morning thing where I do gratitude. I do gratitude for, my amazing woman, my kids, my students, my foundation. And then I'll do gratitude for the things that I want as if I already have them. And sometimes I'll get emotional being grateful for things I don't even have yet. And I know I lost a few more of you analytical ones on that one, but this is how I had $50 million to lose and how I got it back, okay? So ignore it at your peril. It freaking works. Gratitude. You could call it prayer if you like, but that's how you bring everything you want into your life. And the last thing I want to share with you is, when I moved to Denver, I always knew I wanted to live on the beach. There's no beach in Denver. And so I would visualize the palm trees and the sand and the surf and the waves. And 20 years later, I built this $8 million, 10,000 square foot home on the beach. And it was spectacular. I had the beach on one side and I had my boats on the back side. It was called a Gulf to Bay. It was like a slice through an island. And I mean, just to describe this place very briefly, there was a giant waterfall from the second floor balcony into the pool. You had to walk through the waterfall to get to the pool. Pool was in magazines. Big spiral staircase up through the middle of the house, elevator, wine cellar. On the second floor, I had aquariums built around the staircase that cost me almost $200,000. So this gives you an idea of the house. So 2 months after I moved in, okay, I'd worked for this thing for 20 years. So 2 months later, after I moved in, I'm in the pool at night. I'm looking up at this testament to my ego, which is really what it was. It was to prove the world I was freaking good enough. And I got depressed. And I don't mean a little depressed. I mean, I got really depressed. I'm like, what the hell? I've just achieved success like times 10,000. I had the cars, the two Mercedes, the Maserati, the boats, the jet skis, all the stupid crap that I thought was important. My family was inside sleeping. And I'm like, how could I be depressed? And here's the message, the last message I want to leave. We've been taught to achieve to be happy. Like we shouldn't be happy until we've achieved. Okay, there's a message in this. That was one piece. Okay, but in fact, I kind of got that ahead of something I wanted to say. The first thing really was you shouldn't achieve a big goal without having other goals lined up behind it. Like the good book says, without a vision, the people perish. I didn't have a vision for the future, so I didn't know what I was going to do next. The second piece is never about the goals. Happiness comes from progress and growth. Even a little bit of progress or growth makes you happy. It's never about the goals. They say the happiest days of a boat owner's life, right, are the day they buy the boat and the day they sell the boat. Okay, but you need the goals to create that burning desire. But the big piece was I'd been totally focused on me. Rod, show the world I matter, almost narcissistic in a way. And that's the year I went and saw Tony Robbins for the first time. And if you ever have a chance to see him, just do it, okay? Trust me, I spent 20 years following him around the planet because he's extraordinary. But I found out that he fed families for the holidays at this first event I went to in Fort Lauderdale. I'm like, what a concept, do something for someone else. And I'm embarrassed to say I had to be 40 to get that memo. And now I'm blessed to say, I went home, I called my brother, and I said, let's feed 5 families for Thanksgiving. I was going to go visit him in Denver for Thanksgiving. So he called his church, found 5 families that really needed help. And the third family changed my life. We brought food and toys for the kids if they had them, frozen turkeys. And this woman comes out of this one-bedroom shack. She had 5 kids, Hispanic woman. And she sees all this on the porch. She starts crying. Her kids come out. 2 of the older ones start crying, and I start crying. And I'm freaking hooked, Jack. In the last 23 years, we have fed somewhere between 130 and 140,000 children here in Sarasota and Bradenton, Florida. We've done tens of thousands of backpacks with school supplies. This Saturday, we're doing 1,700 or 1,800 backpacks here in Sarasota, the Boys and Girls Club. We've done tens of thousands of teddy bears to local police departments to give officers to keep in their vehicle if they encounter a child that's been traumatized. Now, I'm not saying this to brag. Like I said, we've been taught to achieve to be happy. Like we shouldn't be happy until we achieved. If you give back, you are happily achieving. Now, I know it's a freaking play on words, but it's an important one. Tony Robbins calls it the science of achievement versus the art of fulfillment. Achievement's a science. You want to learn multifamily, get your butt to my boot camp. I'll give you the map or the blueprint. You just got to do it, okay? It's science. But fulfillment is an art. You have to figure out what juices you. For me, it's kids. Maybe for you, it's animals or the environment or the elderly. Whatever it is, give back. Give back right now. Don't wait. Don't say, okay, you got money, that's why you did it. No, you want the money, give back, it'll come faster. Now, you don't do it for that reason, but that's the way God or the universe, whatever you believe, works. And so I just want to leave with that message, brother.
That's amazing stuff, and I know I've been through my own journey with a lot of that as well. Just 20 years of trying to get there, and once you're there, sometimes it's not what you expected. So I just crossed 40 myself, and I'm trying to start figuring out my own way to give back, and now that I have some resources to do it. So thank you for that. One more time, let's just talk about the boot camp. I know I'm going.
So again, it's 3 days. It's not a big sales pitch. I talk about my coaching for like 30 minutes, okay? And you don't have to have no interest in it. It's fine. But it's full on every aspect of this business, soup to nuts, every piece of it. So you can literally go out there and get rolling. The manual's like 2 inches thick. I don't tease it. It is drinking through a freaking fire hose, I will tell you that. I'll have probably 3 or 4 billion represented by the panelists on stage that are all my students, successful students that own assets, to answer all the questions. The networking is extraordinary. A lot of people meet their team there. And the energy is just electric. I keep it very interesting. We do a lot of self-actualization. We look in the mirror. We work on becoming better. We forward pace where we want to bring our lives. And I will tell you, it's a very emotional, exciting, meeting. It's not your freaking typical real estate event. Trust me. In fact, we laugh about that in the middle of it. And so go to rodslinks.com. Use the code Jack at the bootcamp site to get the $197 price. If you're driving, text links to 72345, and I promise you'll be glad you came. No question.
Great. Well, I will definitely be there, and I look forward to seeing my networks. I know a bunch of us are going. So, Rod, thank you so much for taking the time to come on the show. You dropped a ton of knowledge, and look forward to catching up with you again, and definitely seeing you at the event.
It'll be great. It'll be great to see you there, brother. Thank you, my friend. Take care.
Thanks. All right, everyone. Thanks again for listening into this episode. Please like and subscribe on iTunes and YouTube or Spotify or your platform of choice, and follow us on all social media, and join our Facebook group if you're a Facebook user. We've got an active group, a lot of dialogue back and forth, a lot of tips, tricks, and networking. So thanks again. We'll see you in the next episode.
That's all for this episode of Alternative Investor Mastermind. Now that you know the many alternative opportunities out there all up for the taking, you can finally become ultra connected and ultra wealthy. Get more valuable advice from the experts by subscribing to the show at AlternativeInvestorMastermind.com. Become a winner in the world of passive investing today in alternative investment strategies. Thank you for joining us. Until next time.